I wanna know. I wanna know how well does classic WoW hold up? Man, a part of me really wants to play classic WoW again. But that part is 100% nostalgia. 100%. Because I played that game a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I literally played that game at least 8 hours per day for years. Not good. Not good.
Back in 2013, an infamous moment occurred at that year's BlizzCon, when at a World of Warcraft developer Q&A, a young, passionate fan asked devs if they'd ever...
Man, how young did they look? Oh my god. Oh yeah, that's over 20 years ago. Jesus. Oh Jesus, over 20 years.
be willing to release legacy servers of older expansions, and Blizzard responded by saying,
No. And
oh, it's just 10 years ago. Okay. I can get that.
And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Now, as blunt and rude as this guy's remark was, I can kind of understand where he was coming from, because
sure.
It is true oftentimes people look back on early gaming experiences with nostalgia and can't quite judge honestly how good or bad those experiences were.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I remember. Oh, I played Command & Conquer 1, Tiberian Dawn, or in German, Tiberium Conflict, which is a completely different word, has a completely different meaning than what Tiberian Dawn means. But that's aside. I played that game again on my PlayStation. I have the PlayStation version here, so I played it again on my PlayStation. It's horrible. It's so bad. I can't believe that I played that game with a fucking controller back in the day. It's so bad to control. Oh my god. It's horrible. But I really love the game. I still do. It's awesome. But the controls completely suck now.
Blizzard clearly thought that earlier iterations of WoW were not as good as fans remembered, and the only reason anyone would want to go back and play them would be for nostalgia. So that was...
And then they brought Classic out, and it had more players than retail. Yeah. I wonder why. By the way, I absolutely believe that today Classic has more players than retail. I absolutely do believe that. 100%. Because when I go onto retail servers with my free account, it's empty. It's empty.
Your answer, no classic versions of World of Warcraft. But, of course, shortly after this, a private vanilla WoW server got insanely popular, and when Blizzard saw there was tons of money to be made, they released their own version of Classic not long after. But that has given...
Wait, when was that?
There was tons of money to be made. They released their...
2017. Oh. Oh, that's 9 years ago.
Own version of Classic not long after. But that has given me a very cool opportunity today. See, I had somehow gone my entire life without playing any Warcraft games until a few months back when I played through Warcraft 3 for my YouTube channel. Now, I am obsessed with Warcraft and cannot stop thinking about it. This is
Warcraft 3, one of the best games I ever played. I remember I played through it the first time on hard. And it was really, really, really hard. I played through the game several times, and each time was easier, because I then knew what I was doing. There's one mission with the humans that you can completely cheese. You just attack the enemy early, because their base is not built up. but you have already a little bit of army you spawn with. And that's enough to completely destroy the enemy. While at the same time building up your base in the background. Works just like a charm. It's awesome.
Such an amazing universe with an amazing story. Naturally, after beating the Frozen Throne and desperately wanting more, I thought my next step should be trying World of Warcraft, so I downloaded and started playing Retail, which
I actually never beaten the Frozen Throne, as far as I remember. The last time I tried, I was frustrated because it's so hard. It's actually really hard, even compared to the original World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3.
which all of you were quick to tell me was a big mistake. I was informed by the Warcraft community that while Retail can be fun, particularly in the endgame, since I was just
Only in the end game. Leveling in Retail is just bad. It's literally just a bad experience. I know it, I did it.
coming from Warcraft 3, I should be playing Classic Era WoW, the version of the game that was released right after the Frozen Throne, which continues the story and is a very separate experience compared to Retail. But I feel like this is an interesting contradiction, because while so many of you told me that Classic Era WoW is a different experience, very much unlike Retail, Blizzard obviously thinks otherwise. At least they used to think that a legacy version of their game wouldn't have anything special to offer beyond a quick hit of nostalgia for those who played before. Oddly enough, tons of WoW fans today seem to agree with that old infamous quote, where on community forums everyone seems to say newer players picking up WoW should just go play Retail because Classic doesn't have anything to offer if you didn't play it back in the day. It's only
That's absolutely wrong. I think that's absolutely wrong. Who would say that? It's completely retarded. I think the leveling in Classic is far superior to Retail. Far superior. Now the content is not hard. Unless you are stupid. And to be fair, a lot of players are stupid. Especially back in the day. I remember I was stupid. But when I played a warrior and I didn't know how to tank, I was completely stupid. I had no idea what I was doing. But that changed. And I didn't play tanks anymore. I literally stopped playing warrior because why would I? I started playing priest. I have 4 people with me that will drag me through the dungeon. Yay. Good times.
for nostalgia, and without nostalgia, it's just a 2004 game with 2004 graphics. Well, I have no nostalgia for any version of WoW. I played through Warcraft 3 and absolutely loved it. I also have now tried Retail and experienced the good and bad that version of the game has to offer, but I'm still basically a new player with next to no WoW knowledge. So today, I thought that I would dive into Classic, where I can test to see if this is all true. Is Classic WoW from 2004 only beloved because of nostalgia, a version of the game that holds no value to any new players now? Or does this outdated version of the game perhaps have at least one reason a new fan might enjoy it? Please watch my video to find out.
Easy answer, yes. Vanilla WoW, Classic, has, in my opinion, way more soul than Retail WoW. Retail WoW is not WoW anymore. It's just a live service game. Like every other live service game. I mean, Classic is that too. But it had soul. That's the difference. And also, here's my big controversial opinion. Retail WoW looks like a cheap copy of WoW. It looks like one of these WoW clones from back in the day that literally just copied WoW. But worse. That's what Retail WoW looks to me. Especially the standard UI. If you look at the standard UI of Retail WoW, It's horrible. The graphical design is just ugly. It's just ugly.
Upon installing Classic, I'm first greeted with that original 2004 launch cinematic. Narration waxes broadly about how the truce between the Alliance and Horde frayed quickly after the events of the Frozen Throne, but rather than go deep on story, this trailer seems to really just be hyping me up for all the different races and classes I'll be able to play. I am then thrust into the character creation screen, and oh my god, I love it so much. If you watch my Warcraft 3 videos, you know I love low poly games. I'll say it again, low poly graphics are amazing. They're like an impressionist painting where you can see the individual brushstrokes placed by a human being that all come together to create a work of art, which is so cool. I will always prefer this to hyperrealism, but
Yes, yes, actually, yes. Hyperrealism in a lot of scenarios is just boring. It's just bland and boring. This has style. Style over realism. It always works.
after geeking out about the retro aesthetic, it's time for me to pick a class and race, and I waffled on this a little bit. When I asked viewers for suggestions, some of you guys told me I should play Undead, as they have one of the most direct storyline continuations of the events from Warcraft 3, which could be really fun for me to follow up on. I love Sylvanas Windrunner. She seems like a really cool lady and a nice anti-hero that I bet I would enjoy rooting for in the story, but others told me
Actually, in Classic, there was no great story about her. The character was completely underdeveloped. Only later, she became an actual character. And the character became worse and worse with every expansion. It was really bad.
that most of Blizzard's work in vanilla specifically went into crafting the human and alliance campaigns, with those starting zones being much more fleshed out. Because of that, I thought, let's go ahead and play a human warrior once again. I know, it might be boring, I'm sorry. I thought playing the same race class combo might be a cool experiment, since I can have a direct comparison of what it's like leveling in retail versus classic.
I can see that.
Besides, warrior seems really fun and easy to level in retail, so I'm sure it's...
It's not the same. It's not even close.
One of the easier classes to level in vanilla too. After naming our character, we are then given a quick intro cutscene explaining that when Lordaeron fell during the Legion's invasion, that left Stormwind as the last bastion of humanity. Apparently, Stormwind's army has recently been called off to go fight the Horde for some undisclosed reason, leaving the city's defenses to citizens and members of the Alliance like me. And oh boy, we're in.
Which actually is a really great reason for you to become an adventurer. It's very simple, and its logic, it makes sense.
And there's nothing like your first steps in a new MMO. As I load into Northshire Abbey, I'm really excited to start exploring Azeroth. There's something charming to me about an MMO that's willing to skip tutorializing and just plop you into the world right away. One of the first things I notice are some of the other players around, whose names range from tame to a little bit weird. I moved to Tennessee a few years ago, which has been in the process of banning everything deemed not safe for work from the internet, so seeing
yeah.
a guy named Blow Jabba ask if anyone's down for Princess had me a little worried the state police were gonna bust down my door. But thankfully, I didn't actually have to worry because somebody had my back. Today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. We all know by now, if you aren't taking online privacy seriously these days, people are going to, at the very least, be spying on you, and in some cases do worse than that. Depending on where you live, your ISP can track, log, or in places like the US, even sell a record of your internet history. That means advertisers, big tech companies, and even government agencies can all get a hold of your private information super easily. And I have now seen—
And they will. They absolutely will. Because they want to control you. They want to make money out of you. That's the only reason that all of this exists. Money, power, and control. Just,
firsthand how this can lead to your local government dictating what you can and cannot do online, which is so unfair. I don't want my state telling me I can't play WoW because the Moonguard server is too inappropriate, but thankfully, with ExpressVPN, I never have to worry about this again. All I need to do is tap one button and all of my internet activity is encrypted and rerouted through one of their secure servers, which keeps me anonymous online. ExpressVPN, of course, provide tons of other benefits as well, like letting you watch more shows on your favorite streaming services, accessing geo-locked content from around the world. Not to mention, they're the only VPN provider to have servers in every one of the 50 states across the US. And now, with their new tiered pricing model in 2026, you're able to get their service for an absurdly low cost, with you guys getting a really great deal. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months on a subscription by clicking the link in the description down below, going to expressvpn.com/gbay99, or by scanning the QR code on screen. Seriously, thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. They straight up fed my family this month and are actually giving you guys a really good service and good deal.
Yes,
so
family.
Go give them some love. But now, back to World of Warcraft. So we're off in Northshire Abbey, and I run up to the first guard I meet, who tells me that he needs help. Here in the Elwyn Forest, there are all kinds of threats attacking humanity, and with Stormwind's army gone, NPCs are going to be handing out kill quests.
By the way, the slowly appearing of the quest text, you can make that instant in the options menu, just so you know. And yes, that's what I do.
To every traveler they come across. But I'm eager to help, so he sends me to some officer who tells me to go slay 10 kobold vermin in the nearby woods. I go off and start fighting the creatures, and this is the moment I'm introduced to combat in Classic, which blows my mind in an embarrassing way. So I'm obviously just level 1 with only one ability going up to fight these mobs, right? But I'd still assume that it'll be relatively easy to take these guys down. Except mobs in this game deal damage. When I fight something, it can take down half my health bar, meaning if I don't pay attention and take the time to heal up between instances, I could easily see myself getting killed. Thankfully, it's easy to pay attention, with abilities and auto attacks going off slow enough that little trades are super simple to understand. I notice how little damage my auto attack normally does compared to my one ability, Heroic Strike, making that feel impactful when I use it. Not to mention, I see my autos can crit, giving big extra damage on auto attacks when that happens. And I didn't realize this is how WoW worked. Like, I had not noticed any of this in retail. When I tried retail by comparison, that game's auto attacks had these little tiny damage markers that kind of stylistically blended into the combat. So I didn't
Yeah, I didn't even see the damage number. That's horrible design.
Realized they were there. I kind of figured that combat in WoW was just about spamming abilities until a big number pops up, because that's all I ever saw. But now I can see that's not the case. At least in the early levels, this is much more like an old school MMO than I realized, where you are rolling damage against armor in back and forth trades. After killing the 10...
Well, it is an old school MMO. It's over 20 years old.
Vermin, I return to get rewarded with another quest to go off and kill 10 more kobolds, and as I do that, I'm then told to kill even more. All this massacring humanoids, referring to them as cowards and vermin, has me feeling like Grand Marshal Garithos is back in control of the Alliance. But I also know this is how MMOs go. There's just a bunch of generic bad guys with no redeeming qualities strewn across the map, because you gotta have something to kill while you level up, so it's easy to suspend my disbelief. I take on a quest to go kill some members of a gang called the Defias Brotherhood, as well as a quest to go and meet up with the warrior class.
And oh boy, later, the Defias Brotherhood will become really cool. Literally really cool. They are actually a threat to the kingdom. And you solve that at, I think, maximum level 20? Yeah. Well, maybe 25. Maybe around that level. And then you never hear of them again, which is sad.
trainer, which is apparently where I'm going to learn my new abilities. And this really blew my mind. Apparently in Classic, you have to buy your abilities after you level up to unlock them, which I don't think I've ever encountered that in an RPG. I didn't play EverQuest as a kid, which I know had a similar system, but almost every RPG I've come across has taught me that leveling is the grind. Having to make my way back to a class trainer who will then teach me the new abilities for a cost is kind of more realistic, but seems annoying, at least at first.
It is.
But then, as I go off and do more quests leveling throughout Northshire, every time I ding a new level, I get to take this really excited and triumphant march back to the Abbey. It's like a little victory lap, heading back to my class trainer, imagining what my new unlocks might be waiting for me, because I have no idea as someone new to this game. And yeah, paying for the abilities kind of stinks in that it drains my cash stack, but it also...
That's why you only buy the ones you actually use. Yeah. That's the trick. Only buy the ones you actually use.
also encourages me to actually learn what the abilities do before I unlock them. That's something that I frankly need personally. I spent a decade playing League of Legends where I only had to worry about comboing 4 to 6 abilities together.
Ew.
WoW players seem to have way more than that, and this would be pretty intimidating if they were all dumped on me at once. That makes it really nice that this game has a natural way of gently encouraging newer players to learn their class before going crazy slapping a million skills on their ability bar. Before long, I finished most of the quests in Northshire, forgetting to complete a few as I'm getting so lost in the world that I'm just having fun exploring. Eventually...
Really? How can you miss quests there? How? Everything is so close together that you basically can't miss anything.
Heading south to the Goldshire Inn. That's where I learned to set my Hearthstone, which I can use to blue pill recall here whenever I want. Outside of the inn is another store.
Did he say blue pill recall? Okay, never heard that phrasing.
Stormwind guard who asks me to go investigate a mine to the south, seeing about another kobold infestation. And this is the moment where I notice another really interesting thing about this game. There are no quest markers on my minimap telling me where to go. In today's day and age, it's pretty rare to find this, but it's also really cool. I have to treat this NPC quest like it's a real human interaction, where this guy is telling me to go to a place that I've never been, so he has to give me real directions. Head south and look for the mine between the Stonefield and McClure homesteads. My minimap has a fog of war on it, so I can't just use that to figure out where to go. I actually have to head in the cardinal direction south and pay attention to the landscape, scanning the horizon until I find one of the farms and eventually the mine between them. It's a really cool way to force me to explore the world and become familiar with my surroundings, which I'm gonna love the more and more I run into this. Upon approach...
It is good, but it's also annoying if you have to do that all the time. And it can be really, really frustrating if you just don't find what you are looking for. It can be. That's why we now have quest markers.
Approaching the mine, though, I have 2 quests to do here. The Marshal wants me to head inside and investigate, but another NPC has also given me a quest to kill kobolds until I gather 10 gold dust, where he'll give me a bag of marbles as a reward. So I go around and start killing some kobolds outside the mine, but they're oddly tough to take down, which caught me off guard. I don't think I ever came close to dying to a quest mob in retail WoW, no matter how many I was fighting at once, so it's a stark contrast.
Because it's a different game. Retail WoW is a completely different game compared to Classic. Leveling in retail is not meant to be actual content. It's just something you go through to get to the content.
Contrast to find that if I ever pull more than one mob at a time here, I get close to dying. It actually starts to worry me. If I can't fight more than one enemy, how am I going to get into this mine? I can kill some of the guys outside for the gold dust, but it's going to be tough to go inside and explore with so many packed so tightly together in narrow tunnels. I keep on running in and accidentally pulling 3 mobs at once, then having to sprint away. I genuinely start getting...
And that's why you ask for groups. For help in the chat and do it together. It's safer, it's quicker, and you don't struggle for mobs when there are more people.
a little frustrated since I'm maybe only 20 minutes into playing Classic and I'm already running into a brick wall that I don't know how to get over. But that's when it happens. Another player, some mage named Zawadzki, shows up and invites me to a group.
Yeah.
I join it, and he just starts helping me.
Yeah. Something that doesn't happen in retail at all. I don't, unless you're doing dungeons and raids, you don't group up with people in retail at all. You also don't help people with quests. You have the same quests, you kill the same mobs, yeah, but you don't even need to go into a room for that anymore. Back in the day, you had to.
All of a sudden, this mini dungeon becomes a million times easier. We plow through one of the mine entrances and start making our way underground. We're killing kobolds for a few dozen minutes, picking up all the gold dust to a point where I'm getting close to finishing my quest. But that is when I make a mistake pulling a bunch of mobs that gets us both killed, and flashbacks of League of Legends are immediately flying through my mind. I'm assuming that this dude is gonna call me all manner of slurs before leaving the group, reporting me to Blizzard, and probably getting me blacklisted from all.
Yeah, this isn't League of Legends. It's not. It's a PvE game. Unless you are on a PvP server. This is not happening.
The best guilds on the server, so I can never join any of them. I'm prepared to get flamed, but then we both just walk back to our corpses, revive, and then he keeps helping me. And then I get us killed a second time because I didn't learn my lesson, and he still doesn't get mad. He just helps me more. Even after he finishes his quests, this dude makes sure that I finish all of mine. I eventually do, collecting the last of my gold dust, and
isn't that just being a decent human being? Like, literally. I mean, what's the big deal here? Are we really living in a time where people don't help people anymore? What the hell is going on?
when he helps confirm that I finished the exploration task, Zawadzki bids me a good luck in your journey before running off, and I nearly shed a tear. I'm serious. If I had to fight my way through this mine on my own, that would have been a grindy, miserable mess.
Yes.
So finding another player who unprompted invited me to a group, fought alongside me, and was nice enough to not flame me for my mistakes, even when I got both of us killed? I swear, I don't remember the last time that I've played a video game where I experienced that level of kindness. I played plenty of other MMOs that have group content, of course, but none of them naturally led to this kind of helpful social interaction so early on in a playthrough. And looking back on this footage, I know that this doesn't look like anything special. It probably isn't anything special to WoW veterans who've played this game for ages, but as a new player, this felt like the sweetest gesture in the world. It not only established that this is an MMO where players ought to be helping each other out, it made the community feel so alive and kind. I now want to help anyone that I see struggling with a quest in the future to repay the favor.
Wow, I'm surprised that this is such a big thing. Is it really? Because the same thing is happening in Arc Raiders. I all the time run into people with problems and I help them. And people help me. It's... What is going on in the world that this is something so outstanding? I am scared.
I had always heard that WoW was a game conducive to forming friendships, and I can now see how that unfolds so naturally through its gameplay. And I'm only 1 hour in. This journey hasn't even really begun. Before long, I'm running all throughout the Elwynn Forest, questing as much as I can to level up, and the more time I spend in this game, the more I notice things I love. As I keep fighting mobs, for example, I see in the chat box there's text saying that various skills of mine are improving, which I don't understand at first. Eventually, I stumble into menus that show I have all kinds of stats, including professions, weapon skills, and class abilities that each need to be trained to get the most out of my character. I am told this is a relatively easy thing to do eventually, especially by endgame, but the simple fact that I get to see numbers go up the more I go out and adventure, it gives me a sense very early on that I'm making progress with my character, even if I get a bit lost as a new player. The more I go off to level, the more I even start to appreciate those quests that WoW is so famous for. One of the few things that I knew about Warcraft before playing was that this game's quests aren't really quests. They're much more like tasks, telling me to just go kill 10 of a certain type of monster or to head to some area to deliver a package. They're repetitive, they don't really have much problem solving, it's just a lot of grinding for the most part. But the more I kept running into these quests, the more I noticed something really cool. Every time I picked up a new one, it almost always took me to a new area that I didn't know. Sometimes I'd be told to go deliver.
Okay. I don't even remember anything like that. But yeah, they are sending you around. They literally are sending you around the world, literally. And I mean that literally. There are quests you get in a gold share that send you to the dwarves. I remember that. And even to a different continent, shit like that. Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, it's absolutely true. Oh my god. What a realization.
A package to a city I hadn't discovered. Other times I'd just be told to go kill mobs in a part of the forest I hadn't been. But every new quest seemed to always result in me clearing out more and more of the fog of war on my map. This, coupled with the fact that there was no quest marker to guide me, meant that I had to actually navigate the world by looking at the landscape. It made questing really fun. Each quest I picked up felt like a real adventure, sending me off to go explore the wide open world as much as anything else. And even though the world was so big, the fact that I was introduced to it in these small steps eventually left me feeling like I knew my way around. But get this!
Yes, and that's the exact opposite of retail WoW. You go take a quest and then you go to the exact point that's marked on your map. No thinking, nothing, no navigating, nothing like that. You just take the quest, go there. Do the quest, kill 10 mobs, and then you come back. Yeah, great.
Not only was this huge map slowly introduced to me in this way that made it feel expansive and ripe for exploration, I was also kept in one region long enough that that region began to feel like home. Elwynn Forest started to become a place that I actually knew. I felt comfortable here. It became soothing to backtrack through. And it also felt so alive because of two more things I discovered later that day. In my first session with Classic, I played probably about 3 hours in total before I had to log off and go do some real life things, but because I'm such a gaming addict, I was logging back on later that night to play more, and that's when I saw this game has a day-night cycle. Seeing the beautiful...
Oh, right. I completely forgot that might be a thing that people would, talk about or think about.
Orange and gold hues cast across the Elwynn Forest that had just been so bright green prior midday. It was amazing. A day-night cycle goes so far in making the world feel alive, like a living, persistent thing. But that's not all. This is also when I learned about the rested XP mechanic. In WoW, when you log off, if you are in a safe area, like a major city or an inn, your character will then become rested while you're gone, which means that when you log back in again later, you'll have a slight XP boost that scales the longer you let your character rest, the longer the boost will last. Which, oh my god, I don't know if I can accurately describe how cool this is for a new player. This isn't cool because it's an XP boost, let me be clear about that. This is cool because it's a mechanic that treats the world like it is a real living, breathing thing. It's as though even if I'm not logged on, the day in Azeroth will still turn to night. My character will still be there, he'll just be resting. I mean, this is genius. Not only does this mechanic make the world feel alive, but it's also like a reverse daily quest. It's a reward I'm given for taking a break from the game. How neat is that? As I continue
And now compare that to the daily login rewards of today's live service games. Yeah. And also, wow, I would have never imagined that something like a day-night cycle could make people feel this way. But that's maybe because I don't know it a different way. It was always there from the moment I started playing the game. So yeah, that might be it. That might be the reason. It was always there, so I didn't actually realize it, how great it is. Or it seems to be.
leveling, I keep picking up on more and more details of this game I enjoy, like hearing classic mobs don't scale to your level. That makes leveling up feel like it actually matters because mobs you were fighting before become easier to take down, and enemies that might have blocked regions you wanted to explore no longer feel like threats. That's one of the things I didn't love about retail. Enemy mobs scaling to my level just doesn't make sense to me in an MMO. This whole genre is about the power fantasy of a character becoming stronger, and it doesn't feel like I'm becoming stronger if everything I'm fighting gets stronger too. Speaking of retail, I guess I should probably also say that, you know, maybe some of the stuff I'm mentioning here is in retail as well, like rested XP and a day-night cycle. I am now remembering seeing similar stuff in that game that I might have just missed the way that I missed those auto attacks. But I think the difference is that retail went by so quickly and felt so busy that I never had the time to experience any of it. I never stayed in one spot long enough to notice a day-night cycle. Leveling.
Yeah, why would you? Why would you? You are leveling so fast in this game that it forces you to move on. To completely ignore everything around you and just move on. Just move.
Up was so fast that rested XP wouldn't really feel impactful. The game just ushered me from one area to the next so fast I never got my bearings on where everything was, and no area of the world ever truly felt like home. The only thing I would say retail has over Classic at this point is retail pretty quickly threw me into a very exciting story that was a direct continuation of a Warcraft 3 narrative. I haven't seen one story thread from Warcraft 3 by comparison in Classic, at least not yet. What the hell is Stormwind anyway? Like, I thought all of humanity had to flee to Kalimdor during the Burning Legion's invasion. Why was this huge city down south just chilling while Lordaeron fell? Shouldn't they have been helping out? Not to mention, all the guards and the people in the Elwynn Forest are telling me Stormwind aren't helping them either, with the gnolls and kobolds and murlocs prowling around. Like, Stormwind, this is right outside your front door. You should be able to help. Stormwind.
Because there are things going on behind closed doors, which you find out later in the game. Just in case that people watch this video that never played WoW.
It was a really cool place to visit for the first time. By the time I was sent there for a quest, I'd been getting pretty used to the Elwynn Forest, which was relatively sparsely populated. So seeing this huge city with these massive gates and a giant dragon's head hanging from an archway, that was a very cool contrast. There's no moment like your first time stepping.
It's absolutely cool if you enter the city and see one of the dragon heads. That's absolutely cool. Yeah, I remember that from back in the day. Had no idea what was going on, but it was cool.
stepping into a major city in an MMO, and it was so cool going from just barely bumping into the occasional player most of my adventures to suddenly seeing huge crowds of people all crowded together in a big city. I also loved navigating Stormwind on my own too, because I still had no quest markers. If someone told me to go to a specific building or a specific part of town, I actually had to navigate there using the in-game street signs, which was so cool. And then later on in my playthrough, when I kept going back to Stormwind,
Again, it's amazing to me that someone would think that this is so cool, because yeah, that's just how you navigate outside too. For me, that was never a mind-blowing thing, because I literally did the same thing outside in real life. I mean, but I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so yeah, of course that's normal for me.
and eventually didn't need the street signs anymore, it was so satisfying. It made me feel like I had actually become a citizen of the Alliance. But that had reminded me that I had been playing this game for quite a while, and I needed to set a goal for myself, or we would be here all day. You need to always have a goal when you're playing an MMO, after all. Having nothing you're chasing is how you get bored or burnt out and quit. And I figured it would probably be a good idea for me to set the same goal I had in my retail video. Namely, I'm gonna play Classic until I find a story that I genuinely care about, as well as until I run at least one dungeon. That was one of the most memorable experiences I had in retail, after all. I got
Oh, if you think it running a dungeon in retail is memorable, oh Jesus, the dungeons in Classic are way, way more fun. At least in my eyes. Because you actually have to pay attention.
really invested in the story of Jaina, as well as the narrative of the Waycrest family, and my odd experience running Waycrest Manor was the big finale I had in that project. Classic thus far has been much more light on narrative, so I'm eager to see if there is any lore to be found here, or a dungeon that I might care about completing just as much. But the only way I'll find all that is if I get my level 9 ass out of the Elwyn Forest, so I go around and begin questing as much as I can. I realize I missed a few quests back in the Northshire Abbey. I never did complete that one where I was supposed to kill those bandits in the Defias Brotherhood, for instance.
You're way too high a level to do that. It doesn't give you anything. Not even great experience.
So I go back and take them down. As I'm running through Elwyn, I then notice a guild advertising in the region chat, and upon asking if I could join, even though I am completely new to WoW, they graciously take me on as a member, which is very cool to continue seeing that the community is way nicer than I was expecting. But now I'm trying to stay focused on my goal. I want to level up and find a dungeon and story, so I go around and start picking up every quest I see. I'm sent to Stormwind, where I get to do a little warrior class specific quest, but that one just has me getting in a bar fight, nothing too special. I'm sent to kill a pig named Princess that a rival farmer once eliminated, which explains what Blow Jabba was asking about in chat earlier. I find more and more of the Defias Brotherhood crawling around the forests and take on more quests to eliminate them, but so far the most excited I've gotten about in-game lore is when I stumble into a lumberyard.
Princess? That was the pig and not the gnoll. You can take down taking down Princess alone is, depending on a class, actually hard. It actually is.
With peasants from Warcraft 3 who still have all their old voice lines.
More work?
In the middle of all this questing, I ding level 10, which is exciting as a milestone because I've now unlocked talents. I see there is no auto-suggested talent tree I'm supposed to go down, which leaves me happy to read through each one, ready to experiment with strategies, since I can always reset them later, right? The last of my quests in Elwyn involve killing some gnolls off toward the west, which goes by smoothly, until one of them drops an interesting item called Gold Pickup Schedule. My interface tells me that this begins a quest, and as I read it, it reveals someone known as the Collector is going to be receiving a shipment of gold on a number of listed days. I take the note to the Stormwind Guard in Goldshire, who said he's heard of the Collector, but he doesn't really know much more about this mystery. So he tells me to go and kill him, pretty
Of course.
blunt way to get answers. I go to the Brackwell pumpkin patch where I know the collector is, thanks to earlier quests making me explore the area. And upon arriving, I find the collector, but I also find myself hopelessly...
Oh yeah, that was a mistake. That was a huge mistake. A very huge mistake. Shouldn't have done that. That was dumb.
Outnumbered and outmatched. I thought a warrior would be like a bruiser in League of Legends where I could tank a number of enemies while getting a few kills, but I die so fast if I ever fight more than one mob at a time. Am I an idiot, or is there something I'm missing? After dying and going back to Goldshire to farm some more mobs, I eventually bump into a guildmate, a level 60, who says that they'll be happy to help me go and take out this quest. Hell yes, for more emergent gameplay and another community interaction. We take out the collector, grabbing his ring as proof of his demise. Upon taking it back to the marshal, he makes note that this ring is a membership ring of the old stonemasons guild in Stormwind, questioning why a lowly thief would have an artisan guild ring. This is starting to sound like it might be a story that I get to unravel, but then the marshal just shrugs his shoulders and says maybe we'll learn someday, and I am sent off to find more tasks to do. Shortly after this, I go take down Hogger, the first elite mob I've come across, who you can tell is extra tough because of his sick portrait flare around his profile picture.
That looks super cool. Super cool. And also, this is what I mean with the UI. This UI, the design, it looks strong. It looks nice. It has a certain aesthetic to it. It makes it look awesome. Retail WoW's UI looks like trash. It looks like cheap shit. It looks soft. It's disgusting.
Once he's gone, though, I'm finally finished in Elwyn, and I am ready to go head off, stepping foot into my first new region of the game, Westfall. Upon entering Westfall for the first time, I am slightly stunned at the beauty and completely fresh landscape, so visually different from the forests I had just spent the past 8 hours grinding through. Yeah, it took me 8 hours to get level 11. I am sure that is woefully inefficient, but I'm just having so much fun exploring this beautiful landscape. I'm getting a little bit distracted. I don't even care. I come across two farmers who are being driven from their homes because apparently Westfall isn't a great place to be at the moment. As I explore, I come to meet the People's Militia, a ragtag band of human survivors who are trying to fight off the gangs that have taken over the land, as apparently the Stormwind monarchy has abandoned them. Okay, what?
Wow.
This is two regions now that I have to help because Stormwind isn't bothering to give assistance. What's going on with...
I don't even remember that. But that doesn't mean a lot. Haven't done that in a while.
them. I take a quick quest to head to Stormwind and get some supplies from a shop for the war effort, which teaches me about the travel network of griffins in this game. Very different compared to getting my own griffin at level 10 in retail. I then learn more about how the Defias Brotherhood are mostly to blame for the civilian exodus from Westfall, and I'm eventually told to go off and kill a good number of bandits and their machines. Now, I spend a solid 3 hours leveling and questing across the hillside, oftentimes running into other players I group up with, which always feels so fun to bump into these strangers and become brief friends until we part. I seriously cannot overstate how nice it is to be in a community that treats other players who are initially strangers with friendship rather than hostility. But by now, I'm actually...
Jesus. I still can't believe that this is so special. I mean, to me, this is just normal. To me, that's just a normal thing. Man, this makes me kind of sad. What's going on in the world that people aren't friendly anymore to each other?
Getting a little bit invested in this story. The Defias Brotherhood have now shown up in 2 major areas. They clearly aren't just the typical run-of-the-mill bad guys I was expecting. There's got to be some kind of narrative reason why they're here. After a while, I go back to Gryan Stoutmantle, leader of the People's Militia, and he tells me that he has a job for me to infiltrate the gang. In Lakeshire, a city in the region east of Elwyn, he tells me of a rogue named Wiley who might be able to provide some answers and tasks me with carrying a message requesting information. I make my way to Lakeshire, nestled in the middle of the Red Ridge Mountains, where I meet Wiley, who agrees he does owe Stoutmantle a favor and spills some info. Apparently the Defias gang are up to something big, colluding with many of the other hostile mobs found in the area. He gives me a note to take back, which I can read, by the way. I love this about Warcraft. Whenever you're given a message that you're supposed to go deliver to someone, you can just read it. That's such a cool and realistic thing that most games don't let you do, and it lets you have these moments of storytelling. The note reveals that the Defias Brotherhood is working on a weapon of mass destruction. Oh god, it really is 2004 all over again.
Oh
but more
boy.
importantly, he notes how if there's one thing stonemasons know, it's how to build big, which puzzles Stoutmantle when he sees the message. Stoutmantle then tells me to take the note to Matthias Shaw, head of SI-7, which I guess is Stormwind's version of MI6. I go into Stormwind and navigate the city streets until I find their headquarters, where I speak with Matthias, who finally lore dumps what's going on. Apparently a man named Edwin Van Cleef was once the head of the Stonemasons Guild. Van Cleef was responsible for rebuilding Stormwind after the Horde razed it to the ground in the First War. Which, okay, that might explain why they were too busy to help out Lordaeron. Matthias just says that
That wasn't the First War.
Van Cleef and his men were apparently unhappy in how they were treated after they finished building the city, before then giving me a note to take back to the People's Militia. It's not until I read that note that I learn the nobles of Stormwind racked up a debt and then refused to pay the stonemasons anything at all, leaving them broke and destitute thanks to the city's corrupt officials. Okay, that kind of makes me feel like maybe we should be on Van Cleef's side, building the capital city of the Alliance and not even getting paid for it? That's pretty obscene. Upon return,
Yeah, happens in real life all the time. Happens in real life all the time, you know? People buy a house. People have a house built for them, and then they don't pay the full price to the contractor. Happens all the time. You have something repaired in your house, and then you just don't pay. Happens all the time. It's horrible. Tradespeople getting treated like trash all the time by arrogant pieces of shit.
to Westfall, Stoutmantle recognizes Van Cleef's name, demanding more proof that he's the villain behind all this. We're then tasked to go out and find the location of the Defias hideout, which begins with taking down a messenger that roams the area. Now, the Defias messenger is an NPC that roams around a pretty large region of the map. I had run into the guy once before, not realizing he was a quest NPC. I also eventually saw it's a common thing for people to ask where he currently is in the region chat. And this is another thing I really like about WoW. Having these large region chats is really fun. It kind of brings me back to the good old days of IRC chats, and it's so neat.
IRC chats? I don't never heard of that, ever.
That quests can be made easier for other players who choose to help each other this way. I also wonder if it was ever commonplace for players to intentionally mislead each other when someone asked for quest help in region chat. This is the internet after all. After hours of chilling in one
I don't remember that ever happening to me. And I have never heard of anyone doing it. Or anyone having it done to them.
Defias camp, just killing guys with a few other players for moderate XP, I eventually run into the Defias messenger coming down the road and take him out, retrieving a note off his body that's written by Van Cleef, claiming the sea awaits us while requesting more materials for his weapon of mass destruction. After giving the message to Stoutmantle, he tells me a Defias defector is willing to show us the location of Van Cleef's hideout, and once I escort him,
yeah, that quest is so shit. This quest is even worse than the one before. You really should do that only in a group. That's way, way easier.
there to the town of Moonbrook that I had just spent hours beating up gang members in, I'm shown the entrance to their underground cavern, the Dead Mines. As I return to Stoutmantle and tell him the location, he orders me to go into the Dead Mines and kill Van Cleef, bringing him his head. Oh gosh, this is getting dark. The Dead Mines is also a dungeon, a perfect opportunity to now complete my goal. I'm not sure Van Cleef is as sympathetic a character as Alexander was in Drustvar, but I am definitely curious about this narrative of what he's got cooking up, and I am ready to go complete it. All I have to do is enter the first dungeon I've encountered since retail. Of course, back in retail, I was ready to jump into a dungeon the moment I encountered one, as everything scaled to my level, so I start just looking around for a group to run Dead Mines at level 14. With no group finder, naturally, my move is to just park myself in front of the dungeon and ask people if they're about to run it, and if I can tag along. I find a paladin named Sabak, who I ask first, but he tells me sorry, they just filled their group, which I take in stride, saying thanks anyway. I kill time doing a few quests and leveling further until I find myself parked in front of the dungeon again.
Yeah, that ask in chat. Ask in chat. Always ask in chat. And you are in a guild. Ask your guildies.
Now level 15, asking another player if they'd be happy to take me through. This one says they were also looking for a group, but being a shy, nerdy shut-in, I have no confidence in trying to start a group of my own. It's at this moment when I notice a dwarf named Flinty struggling to take down some Defias in the distance. I go off to help him out, assuming he's on a quest, and kill the Defias members with him, trying to make sure that he always tags them first so I don't steal kill credit. I ask if he's interested in running the Dead Mines, and he tells me sure, but we might struggle a bit since we're kind of under-leveled for it and would need a full group. I apologize for not realizing that, relaying I'm a bit of a noob who only knows I must slay Edwin Van Cleef. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't make the connection. Since mobs don't scale in this game, it makes sense dungeons wouldn't scale either, meaning I'm not going to be instantly ready to enter a dungeon the moment I encounter one. But now I'm excited. If I go out and start leveling more, I will not only be properly leveled to actually get invited to a group for Dead Mines, but I can also make the experience easier for my group by being more powerful myself. Rather than just hit the bare minimum recommended level of 16, I make it a personal goal to go out and try and hit level 20, then I will return to Moonbrook and venture into my first dungeon for real, so I get back to questing. Before long, I'm traveling through all 4 of the human starting zones: Elwyn, Westfall, Redridge, and eventually Duskwood, another very spooky region reminiscent of Drustvar. And the one thing that I
This region is very spooky, and it's awesome.
Learn everywhere I go is Stormwind isn't helping anybody. Duskwood have been on their own, overrun by all kinds of spooky stuff, and we already know how little help Westfall and Elwyn have gotten. We eventually learn how many problems Redridge has too when the mayor of Lakeshire gives us a quest to go ask Stormwind for aid against the Blackrock orcs who are attacking. I would think that orcs, humanity's ancient foe, would be enough to get the Alliance off their asses, Blackrock and roll and everything, right? But no, this card basically tells me, yeah, we'll maybe ask the king about it and get back to you. What is going on? I kind of thought that Stormwind's army not being here to help was just a general reason for why this game is an MMO, like why all these town guards would be giving random players quests to go kill 10 kobolds. Now it's starting to feel like there's something actually happening. Why is Stormwind being so apathetic to their kingdom? Why didn't they pay the stonemasons when they built the whole city? I thought the Alliance were the good guys. Eventually, while running through
What do you mean, good guys? There's all the shadows of gray, shades of gray. That's all that there is. There is the good and evil. Well, there is evil, but everything is a shade of gray. The hardest game to level is real life because it takes 18 years to get off the tutorial. Nah. It was easy for me to get 18. Easy. Wish it would be harder, because then I may have learned something important for life, but that all came later.
Stormwind in search of quests that might give answers. I find one that tells me to go to Ironforge, the Dwarven capital city, and that's when I learn Stormwind has public transportation. I can travel this huge distance from Stormwind to Ironforge for free instead of using the expensive private Griffin travel network. Okay,
Yep.
if sacrificing the farmers is what it takes to get public transportation, then maybe I'm all for that. Taking the tram to Ironforge is when I make a really fun discovery, though. I've started to run out of quests that I'm the appropriate level to do in most of the human starting zones at this point, but I forgot there are other races who have their own starting zones that I can travel to as well. That's how I found myself venturing out from Ironforge into Dunmorrow and eventually Loch Modan, which, oh my god, this is so beautiful to trek through. This game has some truly breathtaking vistas. When I make it to
It does. It does. Real life has always been hardcore mode, but only on creative mode because you can make anything. Not really. Not really. You can't make everything. That's impossible. It all it depends on where you spawn, literally.
Loch Modan, I get to see some great indirect world building, while all of the houses and buildings that I've come across so far, mostly in the human starting areas, are built like regular buildings that go up into the air. The Dwarven buildings, by comparison, are built down into the ground. That is such a neat little detail that I had to mention it. Getting to explore the
Well, they are dwarves. I mean, of course, that's what they would do.
these new zones with a new race is super fun and makes any frustration I was feeling running out of quests fly right out the door. Soon I'm doing tons more, killing more kobolds, rescuing lost miner gear, and eventually stumbling into Bingles, who is about to become the bane of my existence. See, this gnome has a little quest where I'm meant to go to an island in the center of the loch where a group of trogs had stolen some of his equipment after he crash landed. My quest helper tells me that I should be able to do this quest at my level, but I swear, every time I go and try to get any one of his supplies from the island, I cannot for the life of me not die. These trogs always come at me in a group of at least 2, and they always kill me. If I'm actually the level I'm supposed to be to do this quest, I am either the worst warrior in existence, or this quest is just annoyingly hard to do. After a while, I give up, heading back to the human area, since I am now level 17, which is past the minimum for dead mines. As I wander back into Westfall, I bump into another level 17 warrior who asks me if I want to run dead mines with him. I quickly say yes, but then he said that he was joining another group who apparently only have room for one level 17 warrior. It's okay. I stay calm and politely let the man go off to accomplish his dungeon, even though I am very jealous. I want it to be level 20 anyway, though, to not hinder my group. And
I'm surprised that he's not getting the idea of asking in his guild. Just ask in your guild. You hope your 100th respawn is good. Well, maybe.
there are still some higher level quests in Westfall, Redridge, and the Dwarven areas I can knock out. I head back to Loch Modan and get killed by trogs a few more times trying to do Bingle's stupid quest. I then head over to Redridge where I farm some ingredients for a cooking recipe, which, I'll be honest, I don't totally know how professions work in this game at this point in my playthrough. That's just another fun system I'll get to discover later on. After dinging level 18, I head back to Bingle's to try the trogs once more, except this time I died to 2 crocodiles before I even reached the trogs. After a bit more cross-region questing, I'm getting close to level 20 where I stumble into a quest in Westfall that will give me a nice shield upgrade. I'm thinking this will probably be pretty useful since, in my experience, getting a tank for a dungeon is one of the harder roles to fill, and the role I'll probably have to do as a warrior whether I like it or not. This is also the moment when I realize I've probably messed up my talents a little bit and cannot reset them for free like in retail, so if I want to get the most out of my tanking, I really need to study which one of these are going to be best for my level before paying for a reset. A reset I am not anywhere close to being able to afford right now. So I go off and do more quests in Westfall, and God, this game is so beautiful. I seriously...
Getting gold on Classic is really hard. It's not hard, but it takes a while. A long while.
Really cannot get over how nice the landscape looks in some of these moments. I'm almost sad when
yeah,
I get
it's
that
beautiful.
shield upgrade, as it means I've knocked out the last of the quests in this region and will need to go finish my leveling experience elsewhere. After dinging 19 in Red Ridge, the 4th try proves to be the charm, as I am now definitely overleveled enough that the game finally lets me finish Stupid Bingle's quest, which still takes an hour, all for a reward that isn't even better than what I already had by the looks of it. Or maybe it is. I actually don't know what I should be looking for in my gear. Like, is armor important? I assume that would be for a tank, right? But what does agility and intellect do by comparison? Is that worth the trade-off? I don't know.
Press C and look at your character stats. Just hover over them. They tell you.
It's kind of fun having...
When I remember correctly. It has been a while.
No idea what the answer is since I'm such a noob. I choose to vendor most of my items from this and many other quests, which finally gives me 1 full gold, which I immediately use to go reset my talents at the warrior trainer. I want to have a real strategy here since I likely won't be able to afford another reset for a while. The tank tree doesn't seem to be that good, at least for some of those early talents that I can.
Yes, backing into tank while leveling is dumb. Because you don't do any damage. It will make the game just harder. Unless you're leveling with a healer. But then if you're leveling with a healer, and with a healer I mean, leveling with a healer I mean another person that's playing a healer. If you do that, then you don't need a tank spec. Just go with damage.
So I think instead, maybe I should go all the way into Fury? Is that a bad idea? Demoralizing Shout, I found, is a neat way to lower enemy damage, and it's AoE, right? As a tank, I assume that spamming debuffs like that would be very useful. I also selfishly want to get this ability that will allow me to slow my enemies, because every time I'm trying to kill a humanoid in this game, they always try to run away right before they die, which is so annoying.
Yes,
I'm thinking maybe this can help stop that.
It's
I forgot
really
to
annoying.
record this part, but this is also where I bumped into the weapon mastery trainer Wu Ping, who taught me how to use crossbows, and oh my god, this is so much easier for pulling mobs. I love it. I finally managed to reach my goal, dinging 20 after knocking out a few final quests in Red Ridge, where this friendly dwarf cheers me on. And in honor of his kindness, I do one last quest that grants the Dwarven fishing rod as a reward, which is just a gun. God, I love the humor in this game. But that's it. I have level 20. I have my shield upgrade. I have my talents. And all of that together means I should be ready to go and tank a Deadmines run. It is time to finish the story of the Defias Brotherhood. Now,
and that's where I take a pause and take a piss. I really need to. You remember playing a game like that? You sold your fucking armor to buy healing potions. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. The smart choice there would have been to go into a low-level area and farm mobs for money. Or stuff like that.
the first thing I need to do to run this dungeon, of course, is find a group. And finding a group is one of the things that Blizzard specifically cited as a reason why WoW players don't actually want Classic.
Remember when you had to, like, spam cities and say, need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that, because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon.
Well, I'm a tank,
yes.
so I shouldn't have that problem.
Yes, and the push the button made the game worse. It literally did.
Start my search by using my tried and true method of posting up in front of the dungeon, harassing anyone that looks like they might be about to run it. But as I don't see many faces, I eventually have to get over some social anxiety and use the region chat instead. I see some other players are also looking for a group, even though they are not fully drunk yet, which gives me the idea that I should go ahead and just start a group of my own. With me tanking and DPS always easy to find, the toughest part is naturally going to be finding a healer. But that's when I see someone in chat named Tank Girl, who says that she can heal a Deadmines run. Naturally, seeing a girl in chat makes a few players freak out. I'll go ahead and blur the usernames for anonymity. We were all cringed once before. I hop on the chance to start a group, though, by inviting Tank Girl to heal with another player willing to DPS. Once we have a group of 3, finding the final 2 DPS players proves to be easy, and we are about...
Well, yes, of course. Everyone plays DPS. So of course finding that is easy.
To run the dungeon when one player points out that Tank Girl doesn't actually have the abilities a paladin needs to heal at her low level. That's when she graciously volunteers to bow out, leaving us in search of a healer. Our other warrior says a priest in chat is one of his guildmates who can heal for us, and I should invite him, which it turns out it's Flinty, the dwarf that we saw earlier, who was going to run dead mines with me even when I was so underleveled. It actually takes me a little while before I recognize it's the same guy, but when I do, I start freaking out at how awesome this is. Like, I had never really been someone who enjoyed when games restrict my character to a specific server, but now I can see why that's kind of awesome. Since I'm on the same server as...
It has its positive sides. It actually does. I'm 100% agreeing here. Having server identity is actually a nice thing. But at this point, yeah, we don't actually need that anymore.
all these other players leveling together, the longer I play, the more I'll notice the same players leveling alongside me. And after a while, I almost can't help but start to develop friendships, rivals. It actually feels like a real online community in a persistent world. And that certainly makes me want to treat players that I know I'm going to see again a lot kinder compared to my other experiences with random solo queuing in the past. Maybe that's why everybody in Classic WoW is so nice. But I suppose the true test of how friendly everyone will be to each other is how our group responds to having a complete noob like me tanking their Dead Mines run, because now it's time to go slay Edwin Van Cleef. As we crawl down into the Dead Mines...
Yeah, having a complete noob as a tank, that's hard. That's literally hard. It's just... that's not fun. And I know it, I was one of those people. A noob tank. Horrible. Horrible.
I immediately start fighting mobs with my group, and almost instantly we start seeing loot. This is the first time that I've really encountered WoW's rolling system. I can see that when loot drops for a group, everyone has 3 options. They can either need roll, greed roll, or choose to pass. I don't really understand what these terms mean. Passing is self-explanatory, but I don't think I need any of these items, and I don't want to be a greedy person, so I just choose to pass on all the loot as it keeps popping up. To the left of the actual dungeon entrance is where we find ourselves some undead dwarven miners. I have 5 quests that I meant to do in this dungeon, 2 involving collecting for union cards, as well as an expedition badge that's dropped by these guys. As we start knocking them down, though, I only managed to find 1 union card before we wipe. Oh god, maybe this run isn't gonna go so well. Our group assures me that they just got a little bit cocky, though, and we make our way back to finish clearing out the undead. I do find that expedition badge as a drop, but I don't get any more union cards before everyone else seems kind of eager to move on. I'm just happy to be here, so I don't really mind pressing forward. As we step into the dungeon, the group is, of course, expecting me to
weren't even in the dungeon yet.
I said I would be the tank, and I've started to learn a little bit of how to pull one mob at a time with my crossbow, not grabbing a million other mobs at once, but I'm still a little bit of a noob and not totally sure how slow I need to go through the dungeon, so I just start by picking off the Defias minor, non-elite level 18 mobs one at a time. My teammates let me know very softly that I'm being a bit too careful and we can pick up the pace, as this level 24 warrior, Stug, helps lead the way. The thing about tanking, as someone that is still very new to Classic, who also is playing with no add-ons because I don't realize add-ons are a thing yet at this point, is that I'm not very good at it. I can't always tell when I'm actually succeeding in getting mobs to focus me, and I'm also not totally sure what spells I should be using to do that. Obviously, my taunt will make one bad guy attack me for 6 seconds, but that's the only obvious mechanic I can see. I do notice that some of my abilities increase my threat, and I assume that's how I get aggro without a taunt, so I just spam those as much as I can, but most mobs still seem to be fighting our higher leveled warrior, who's supposed to be DPS. Things are going fine anyway by the time we reach our first boss, where I manage to pull him without aggroing the other 2 mobs by his side, and I do my best to tank as long as possible. But once again, Stug seems to draw aggro, even though I tried to stand in between him and the boss like a white knight protecting my party. We take down the boss as well as the 2 additional...
To be fair, having two warriors and both of them switching aggro between them, that's not that bad. It's not. Even the healer will say, yeah, but that doesn't really matter. And I know it. I played a healer for years and years. Oh shit. For over a decade. Oh boy.
Mobs, and I seem to mess up a little bit tanking as our healer Flinty dies shortly after on our next fight, which I feel so bad about. Flinty is the nicest guy that I've known in Classic so far, tied with everyone else I've come across, I guess. He eventually makes his way back, and I am grateful nobody flames me, as I'm sure I messed up there, but we keep pressing on, eventually reaching the next boss room. I start this off by pulling all the additional little mobs around the main guy before Stug goes in and initiates the fight for us on Sneed. He also proves to be a not too difficult boss as we take him down relatively easily. This time a blue item drops, possibly the first blue that I've seen in this game up until now, and I don't think this is an item that I could use, and I certainly don't need it, but I still hit greed because I kind of want to get a blue. I don't end up getting it, but to be honest, I don't really care about getting any kind of loot. I don't know what I'm supposed to be trying to get in the first place for my class, and I feel like my teammates kind of deserve all the loot since they're the ones nice enough to...
How do you not know? How? Don't you read descriptions? I mean, armor is... You need armor? You need weapons? I mean, what else is there to it? You get the thickest armor that you can as a tank class. If you want to tank. That's the thing, if you want to tank.
Run me through this dungeon. We head forward and make it to our next area where some goblin craftsmen will summon these little mechs that fight alongside them. Our team warns me of this, which is how I learned that additional mobs in a fight are called adds, and something I should be careful about not pulling if I can. I'm really nervous about pulling things right because as the tank, that's the one role I have in this dungeon that I'm actually able to do since Stug just draws aggro on everything. But for the most part, things seem to go pretty well as I slowly but methodically crossbow these suckers down the ramp. We take down the boss shortly after, and I naturally pass on the items he drops. At this point, Stug gives me a few tips about playing warrior, saying that it's not worth it for me to be using Rend or Heroic Strike. I should just be spamming Sunder Armor and Revenge to keep up my threat, allowing me to keep aggro. I thank him for the tip because as a League player, my gut is telling me to take this comment as an insult, like, oh, you don't know your class clearly because you're playing it so wrong, but I actually do appreciate it. I don't know my class, and this info is very helpful. We press forward where we need to speed things up a little.
Yeah, why would you take something like that as an insult? Why? People these days are really retarded, aren't they? Taking everything as an insult? When someone gives them a tip or explains something to them? What is going on with people?
Since a patrol has spawned behind us at the start of the dungeon and will catch up if I don't go quickly. We reach a locked door where I use a cannon to break through, aggroing a couple elite mobs that we then take down before walking up to see the weapon of mass destruction referenced in all those quests, a gigantic pirate ship overtooled with weapons in this huge underground cavern, which is so unbelievably cool. Like, I don't know if this is the sort of thing you're supposed to appreciate in WoW, but I loved the way this was all set up. I was feeling almost claustrophobic going through this dungeon so far with all these tight little corridors and small mining tunnels, making the reveal of this ginormous cavern with all its open space and huge pirate ship contrast so well. We begin making our way up to the top of the ship as we eventually...
That's called good design. It's that simple. Good design.
Reach our next boss that has a couple tricky moves. Namely, we have to kill his adds before he reaches certain low health points where he'll do a big stun that could leave us vulnerable to getting wiped if we don't take care of them first. Things go smoothly though. One of these guys drops some boots that I hit greed on and actually win my first loot of the dungeon. I still don't have the attitude to hit need on anything. The dungeon is going fine enough. I don't think there's anything else I need to finish it. But after After a dagger drops and I hit greed on it alongside everyone else, the guy who won it tells me I should have hit need, since that would be way better for tanking than what I have at the moment. I'm slightly embarrassed. I didn't even realize the players could see each other's items until now, and I hadn't thought about this, but he's right. Because I'm a warrior who built—
How? Oh, right, because he's not talking about the loot in the chat window. You can right click on a player and go to inspect, and then you see the items and shit like that. Right, he means that. Yeah, I can see why a new player wouldn't know that.
Builds up rage from my auto attacks, a sword with a slower attack speed. It's probably less effective than another item that's going to attack much more quickly. Thank you very much for that teaching moment, teammate. I actually appreciate it. And luckily, literally 5 seconds after missing out on the dagger, our very next drop is a Blackwater Cutlass, another nice speed upgrade that I win the roll for, getting a faster weapon to use after all. There's a little optional boss that one of our party members needs a drop from up ahead to the left, a Murloc named Cookie. So I head forward, and after taking down some of the pirates, I managed to pull Cookie without aggroing any of the other ads nearby, something my teammates congratulate me for. And that feels so nice. Seeing my group say nice job, it gives me enough dopamine to keep smiling for the rest of the week. He sadly does not drop the item our party member needed, but with him down, that means it is time to make our way to the top of the ship and face off against Van Cleef. I'm told it's pretty easy to accidentally pull some of the mobs from the higher ramps here if we go forward too recklessly, but after a bit of instruction, I managed to pull each enemy one at a time, getting another nice job from my teammates. Hell yes. A moment of panic quickly comes across me when we're making our way up the ramp and someone says in chat, "Pull him back, WTF." I am terrified that I've made a costly blunder until I realized that our warlock had his pet out and was not behaving for him. He quickly apologizes for the mistake, and I am still in the clear.
The pet's name is Mr. Crackers. Mr. Crackers? It was Mr. Crackers.
Doug then shows us a trick that you can jump onto this barrel if you're ever about to wipe and need the assistance of an escape, which is nice that we've made it to a sort of checkpoint.
Good to know.
As we're about to...
I never knew that. 24 years. 24? No, 22 years. About 22 years. And I never knew that. Guess you never learn out.
Face the final boss. As we slowly make our...
Wait, he has only 2 bags? He has only 2 bags in addition to the main backpack. Oh my god.
That we've made it to a sort of checkpoint as we're about to face the final boss. As we slowly make our way to the top, we take down Captain Greenskin, another mini-boss, before we finally get to face the man, the myth, the legend, Edwin Van Cleef. Now, honestly, this setting, the layout of Edwin standing here, menacingly staring me down from a long, empty hallway, it gave me chills. He's a character the lore has been referring to for so long that I'm a little starstruck now I actually get to see him in the flesh. Our team strategizes a bit, warning each other that he'll spawn some invisible ads that come along to fight us as well. But once we're ready, I take aim with my crossbow and initiate the fight.
None may challenge the Brotherhood.
Honestly, these little voice lines that he gives are so cool to hear. I'm not sure any NPC that I have seen so far has had fully voiced dialogue mid-interaction like this, and it really lends to the story that this is a big moment. I kind of want to join Edwin too. I definitely empathize with him getting screwed over by the Stormwind nobles and want to team up, but then I remember that he's trying to use a weapon of mass destruction. Maybe his cause isn't so righteous.
Maybe it is.
Edwin is pretty tough to take down, although we managed to do so, chopping off his head to bring back as proof. Gosh, Warcraft is a dark universe, But wait, what's this letter?
Which is
Van Cleef
good.
also manages to drop the Cape of the Brotherhood, another blue item that I'm considering need rolling for, my very first need roll, when I notice the additional mobs have taken down Stug and are starting to finish off the rest of my allies. Uh-oh. I quickly need for the Cape before trying to take down the rest of the Defias, and before long, we're down to our last guard who is nearly in a duel to the death with me, a duel I think I might...
Yeah, you never loot while the fight is still going on. That's just a sin. Don't do that. You don't.
lose, but then I remember I can run off and get to safety by jumping to the big wheel, which we narrowly managed to pull off, getting to safety. And oh look, it's me and Flinty side by side as the last two survivors of the fight. We sneak back up to get a quick revive on a couple allies before finally taking down the last of the Defias Brotherhood. And there it is. We did it. Quest complete. Our allies bid a final goodbye to one another, as apparently I wasn't the only player a bit out of his depth on this journey, which makes me feel glad to see that we were all able to come together and finish off the run. And what a great conclusion to this quest, and the video too. We completed our goal of going through a dungeon just as we did in retail, and I succeeded in finding a story to care about. The Defias Brotherhood was a narrative that started all the way back at the very beginning of my Warcraft journey in Northshire Abbey, and then continued through the next 20 levels all the way into my first dungeon. But now it's done. It's all over. There's nothing left to do except hand in Van Cleef's head for experience, turning in the rest of the dungeon's quests as well, leaving everything wrapped up. Except, hang on, what was that letter he dropped? It's an unsent letter to Barros Alexton, the city architect of Stormwind. Okay, let's turn this in quickly. Edwin, I see the years haven't changed you a bit. An idealist and a romantic. Okay, I don't need to empathize with him anymore. Come on, the story is over. Van Cleef and I were members of the Stonemasons Guild. When we finished our duties, we were cheated. The nobles refused to pay us, but some of the more senior stonemasons were offered governmental jobs. Hang on, why is Stormwind so corrupt? Van Cleef refused.
Because it's government. Every government is corrupt. Just remember that shit. Every government is corrupt.
A job out of loyalty to all the stonemasons, as Lieutenant Basil Thread might know more about his plans. He's being held in the stockade. Okay, I can just go and talk to him real quickly to finish off this quest, right? Wait, the stockade isn't another dungeon, is it? How much longer does the story go?
It goes, I think, up into level 60, which is maximum level.
You know, coming into this video, when I decided to take this project on, I was kind of worried I wasn't going to have a good time. Because the way Blizzard talked about Classic, the way WoW's community talks about Classic, it really makes it sound like this is an outdated game that people can only enjoy for nostalgia. But no! They're wrong. I don't know what else to say. They're just wrong. Even to a new player that has no nostalgia for it, this original version of World of Warcraft hooked me so unbelievably well, better than retail did, to be frank. Not only did it introduce me to the game, teaching me tons of complex mechanics in a super simple way.
And yes, I hate retail. I do. I hate retail. If you have watched my videos or streams before, you know I hate retail well.
That I actually understood, as well as introduced me to the world in a way that made this hugely expansive map feel like a second home filled with lore to uncover. But Classic also did something I hadn't ever experienced. It taught me why WoW is fun in the first place. When I would always ask friends in the past why they played WoW, people would always tell me the same thing: WoW has great PvE endgame content. And I never knew what that meant. Every MMO today has challenging and fun PvE content that is not exclusive to WoW. And plenty of titles out there are really great throughout the entire game, not just at the end. What is it that keeps people playing World of Warcraft specifically? But I feel like Classic finally gave me an answer. WoW is fun because this game acts alive more than any other. Not only does WoW have all these in-game mechanics that helps you buy into the belief that this is truly a living, breathing, persistent world, someplace worth putting time and effort into progressing a character, it also populates.
That's it. Every level that you make matters in WoW. And in Classic WoW. In retail, it doesn't. It's basically the leveling in up to maximum level from the past expansion to the new one. It just exists because it always existed. You could cut that completely out and it would be the same. It literally would be the same.
That world with a real community that you need to interact with. You can't run a dungeon solo, you can't raid on your own, even PvP isn't really about 1v1s to my understanding nearly as much as it's about massive group battles or 3v3 arena play in its esports scene. This is a game where players can only perform one role at a time. You need to interact with others across the world to engage in most content, and that's a fun kind of challenge not many other games give you. It certainly gave me some really enjoyable interactions that made the world feel alive. Now, when somebody tells me that they like WoW because you get to do 25-man raids that take hours to complete, but if everyone plays their role pixel perfect, they'll unlock permanent character progression, I totally see the appeal. I also haven't gotten to experience any of the PvP yet, although I am already leveling a rogue on the anniversary servers for it, but now this game is making me wish that I hadn't sunk my time into playing a PvP game that has a miserable, lonely solo queue experience, and instead chosen one like WoW that forces you to make groups with other players, creating bonds and friendships that last way beyond your time in game. Even though I only made it through a portion of the early game leveling experience in Classic for this video, this version of the game did such a good job of showing me how fun WoW can be. And you know what? I've heard from you guys that the retail experience has way more content in the end game compared to Classic. Retail has...
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The endgame content in retail is way too complicated for a new player.
More raids, more dungeons, and way more ways to challenge yourself, whether you prefer PvE or PvP. It might just be a more challenging version of the game overall. That certainly might be true, but Classic is the version of WoW that sold me on this world hard enough that I might actually keep playing long enough to reach the end game. I don't know if I would have reached max level if I was just going through retail. Honestly, I would suggest anyone new to WoW who wants to get into the game today, you should start by leveling a character in Classic first. Even if you want to go and play retail after, this version of the game is just such a better introduction. To be fair, the one thing that retail did well was story. It came out swinging right away with a great Warcraft 3 narrative I got to follow up on that got me super psyched. That's my one complaint about Classic, actually. I have played 25 hours of this game now, and I haven't seen one Warcraft 3 story thread, which I...
Why is he showing that? Oh, right, because it's the only thing that he can show that shows the time running. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
I know that Illidan and Arthas show up in expansions, and even here in vanilla, I've heard that if I get close to the end game, I get to eventually do things like run Stratholme as a dungeon. I don't doubt that there are cool Warcraft 3 moments that I can maybe follow up on eventually. But part of what made Warcraft 3 so good was that you got hit with an amazing story right away. Like, I would have to sink hundreds of hours into reaching level 58 to do Stratholme as a dungeon in vanilla. By comparison, the Calling of Stratholme is mission 6 in Reign of Chaos. You get right into a dramatic story immediately in that game. There is also something deeply depressing to me about the fact that Warcraft 3 was this game so well preserved in time that I could pick it up 23 years after release and experience its story the same way some kid did back in 2002 on launch. The fact that WoW keeps deleting its campaigns with every new expansion is so sad. I wish Blizzard just made Warcraft 4 anyway, so someone like me could experience the story of Warcraft post.
That will never happen. Never. Number one, they have no team for doing that. They literally shut down their RTS team, so it will not happen. And I don't believe that Blizzard today would be able to make something good.
Frozen Throne. I guess that's my complaint. That's a pretty big complaint, but it's the only one I have. I might have preferred Warcraft 4 in terms of storytelling, but as an MMO, Classic WoW is incredible. I get that's the thesis of my video. World of Warcraft is indeed a pretty good MMORPG after all. It's possible some features might drive me away eventually. I have heard that best in-slot items exist in this game, which is kind of sad, and apparently Blizzard will release new best in-slot content through expansions, invalidating players' older grinds. That kind of sounds infuriating, but even so, I've been hooked enough that I'm not stopping now. I gotta keep playing, at least to find out what happens with this story of the Defias Brotherhood and Stormwind. Let me know in the comments what kinds of videos you guys would like to see from me next. I would be happy to keep playing WoW and making more content on Classic, but I would also be happy to try other games that I've missed if you've enjoyed these first impression videos and you're starting to get sick of Warcraft. Shout out to all the channel members out there. I hope you guys enjoy your new socks. If you know, you know. And shout out once again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this insane project. Check them out, link in the description. But on that note, I will let you all head off. So until next time, thank you once again for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.
Good video. Very good video. I really enjoyed this. I really, really do.